Distinguished Toastmaster Tan Kwan Hong. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, for the wonderful introduction. And once again, very wonderful afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you leaders out there. A special mention to District Director and past District Director Kathy and Patricia, respectively, as well as Division Director Margaret and all the organizing committee. So once again, I'm very excited to be here to present to you how to be a risky leader. You need to be a risky leader because the world is operating in a very different way right now. And we all need to change our paradigms and shift our perspective in order to reach the next level of growth. And I am going to share with you how you can do it. So as a risky leader, you are going to learn from me about how to be risky so that you can transform your life and your organization, whether it is Toastmasters or your corporate organization or any organization or team that you take part in. So are you ready? Okay, very good. So if you are ready, excellent. And as you heard from our Mr. Toastmasters, James, all right, and he said that the first thing in a risky leader is to be resilient. Resilience is very, very important. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And think about it, any good leader, whether in the corporate organization or Toastmasters or anyone in your life, people who have reached a certain high level of status, of respect, mastery, and accomplishments, many of them faced failure before. They have seen both success as well as failure. But how did they manage to buy this experience? They bought it through their time and through their character of resilience. Like our previous speaker, Eric BTN, once said that we cannot buy experience. We can only invest our time and effort to gain this experience. So resilience is the first factor, very important factor. So what do we mean by resilience? What is resilience to you? Now, that resilience is such a broad concept. There are many ideas about resilience in the marketplace. There are so many ideas about resilience in research. And resilience can be growth mindset, it can be grit, it can be many things on this list. But today, I'm going to dive into a specific aspect of resilience that you need to pay attention to, because this particular aspect here will make or break whatever you try to invest in. Whichever way you are developing yourself as a leader, or if you are developing your teammates in your Toastmaster setting, this is the number one part of resilience that you must address first. And do you want to know what exactly is that? Okay, this part of resilience is what I call focus resilience. So resilience is something that we develop across the different levels, across the different stages. The first part is what we call focus resilience. And let me draw upon my experience last time when I was an educator, when I was working with people, with children in the youth industry. And I got a lot of opportunities to train children. Basically, I train children at the top end, those that are in GEP caliber, the gifted education program, those that have to represent Singapore for PISA tournaments. I've met them before. And I also experienced cultivating or sharing my knowledge with children who are on the other end, the other spectrum, all right, those who are not interested in studies at all. And I realized something very interesting about these two groups here. Now, let me share with you something. The children at the top end, they are very smart. They are really, really intelligent. And many times their intelligence level are given. Okay, let me break it to you. They are given, they are born with it. And of course, we sparkle it, we bring it out of them, but they have the raw material for that kind of success, that kind of very quick level thinking. And let me share with you one more thing. The children at the other end of the spectrum, they are also very intelligent. Let me share with you, they are very, very intelligent. Okay, they have certain ways of looking at the world that we do not have, even me do not have. And that itself is a form of intelligence that unfortunately isn't harnessed very well. And what is the difference between the both of them? Okay, the both of them is not intelligence at all. The difference is the focus, the level of focus, the ability to focus and hang on and hold on to a situation until you see results. That is really one of the predominant difference. And when I work with these children, right, the first thing that I get them to do is to find ways to lengthen their focus. To increase the focus levels so that we can see results at a faster rate. And the same principle actually works in the adult education level as well. Sometimes when we don't achieve something, it means that we have not held on long enough or sustained it long enough until certain level of progress is made. A level of progress that we can learn from, or we can derive something good from it. So level of focus is the first level of resilience. And once focus is achieved, what we do is we transform them into adaptive resilience. Because focus is the hotbait, is the first level, and we transform the adaptability of the person. We try to make that person experience incremental adjustments to improve his life, change his strategy, change his thought process, change a little bit of the paradigm, the tools and techniques. And that is called adaptive resilience. And finally, at the third level, we go for transformative resilience. This is where the person transforms himself and grows at an exponential rate. And you look at these three stages here, the same thing happens for many of the leadership teams as well. First, most of the time when I go and work in the corporate world for change management consulting projects, I realize that the management team do not have focus resilience. They do not know where they want to go. They are all over the place. They are not directing their efforts and their intelligence at the correct direction. So we establish focus resilience. Then once everybody is together and aligned and focused, we bring in different things to start to let them change the perspective and be more adaptable to a new environment. And finally, the third part, transformative resilience. We find ways to transform them, to harness all the resources they have to transform their ability. So in your Toastmaster setting, you also have to ask yourself, which stage are you at? Are you at the focus stage? Should we bring more focus to the team? Should we align the team and hold on all the team's resources and energies to achieve something first? Okay? Or perhaps you are already aligned and focused. The next step is to find ways to adapt, to change and adapt to new situations or to new goals, incremental goals. And finally, transformative is the ultimate point of resilience. So once you achieve this, you realize this process happens for your own personal growth, as well as for corporate and organizational growth, and even for Toastmaster setting. So the reason why many people do not have this kind of focus resilience is because of one simple word. It actually all boils down to one simple word: no clarity. Now, as I coach more top CEOs, organization champions, and all those people who are very smart and intelligent, but yet not performing from time to time, I realize there's also a certain pattern. Okay, and you see, success leaves clues, but lack of success also leaves a lot of clues. And one of the clues is no clarity. They don't feel confident in the direction they are going, or they do not know where to go. And the first thing I establish is clarity. So as a leader in your organization, the first step to achieve focus resilience is clarity. Find out what people want. Find out what people envision the club to be in. Discover clarity first, because once everybody is clear, then the building blocks for success and resilience and even courage starts to fall into place the moment you have clarity. Okay, because no clarity means no resilience. And I remembered there was a very famous phrase in Alice in Wonderland. And Alice in Wonderland, right, is amazing. There are many life principles in it and many peak performance principles if you watch closely. And there was once when Alice came to a fork in the road and she asked, which road do I take? Okay? And beside her, there was this animal called the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat responded, where do you want to go? Okay? And Alice answered, I don't know. Okay, I don't know where I want to go. Then the cat says, it doesn't matter. So about leadership in the corporate world, as well as in the coaching world and in the Toastmasters world, the first thing we need to do as leaders is clarity. We need to determine the direction, because if we do not have clarity over why we are in Toastmasters, what we do, why we do the things we do, why we want to change, then whatever we do later on won't matter at all. So the first step is always clarity. Okay, so clarity is always first priority as a leader. So all things are created twice. there's a mental of first creation, and the mental creation happens inside here. Inside here is another world of its own. The power to visualize is another world of its own. As a leader, you must tap into this power, your mental model, your understanding of the world, because you can manifest something here, manifest results here through your visualization before you manifest it in the world and before you communicate with everyone else. Okay, so clarity is always number one, first priority. And I realized that the moment I help my clients get clarity over the direction, their success quadrupled. Their success become more exponential and more massive. And all this success that happens subsequently are their self-directed success. I claim no credit over it. Okay, because I am there to help them get clarity and build the fundamental stages of resilience. And you can do that in your team as well. Okay, so how do we build the resilience in you and your Toastmasters team? What can you do? There are 5 E's. Okay, enjoy, engage, enable, evolve, and explore. These are the 5 E's that you can rotate your activities around so that you build a more resilient team that never gets bored. The first part is to do things that you love. Okay, do something that you love, but you have always been putting it off. Find that something that you have always wanted to do, you love to do. And also help your team find that thing they love to do as well. Help them do the same thing. Okay. Next, engage deeply with your community, your company, your family, your people around you, because as human beings, we are social creatures. Our brain is wired to interact with people, to work with people. And if we are isolated for a very long time, our mental health and mental capabilities and even our cognitive capabilities will also decline. So go out there and engage with people, talk to people, work with people, play with people, have fun. Okay. So next part, enable. Do something each day to work on your health, your spirit, your happiness, and enable elements for success. All the elements that will lead to your long-term success are things that you have to invest in right now. So help your team do the same. What are the things that when you do now, the fun things that you do now that do not necessarily lead to DCP? Okay, what are the things that you do now will enable future success of your team? You have to ask yourself this question. Number 4, evolve. We are human beings, and our goal, one of our prime directive, is to always evolve. We are never satisfied with the status quo. We always want to master something and do something better, to be faster, better, and stronger. And that is actually a kind of a masculine aspect of human nature. So do something to evolve and transform yourself to the next level. Keep working for the next frontier. Don't just stop at one pathway or 2 pathways. Keep going on. Keep doing pathways. Treat it like an exercise. Treat it like going to the gym. Okay. Treat public speaking like going to the gym, and encourage that with your participants in your club. And finally, explore. Do something you have never done before or never dared to do. Seek new challenges. Find different platforms to speak in. Find different roles to play in. Try out different kinds of Toastmasters leadership roles, and especially roles that you are afraid to do. And that's how you build courage. Okay, so once you have all these things, then you have developed resilience. So everyone is able to follow. Everyone following so far? Okay. Very good. So next part is called innovative influence. Now, innovation distinguishes between a leader and follower. And how do we influence other people? Okay, there are many different ways, because Steve Jobs once said that management is about persuading people to do things they do not want to do, but have to do anyway. So in management, we do things like carrots and sticks. Okay, while leadership is about inspiring people to do things they never thought they could. And that sums up the difference between leadership and management. So moving on, now all the time we have talked about influence and persuasion from the speaker's perspective. But I'm going to bring to you the other perspective, the person's perspective, okay? And when we want to influence someone, we want them to take action. And where does the motivation or the want to take action comes from? Where does that want come from? So according to Paul MacLean's example, there are 3 brains. The first brain is called the reptilian brain that is involved with survival, instincts, biological functions, and anything that is very all our baser instincts, our baser wants and needs. Okay, things that deals with the basic pain and pleasure. For example, when you feel hungry, when you feel thirsty, it is the reptilian brain that is controlling it. The second part is called the feeling brain, how we feel. And the feeling brain comes from the limbic system. And that's how we remember emotionally charged event. And of course, in any personal development workshop, we always tend to over-focus on the logical brain, which is the neocortex, okay? To process information and think logically. All right, so these are the three brains that we have. And what happens in motivation, okay? The more we can communicate to the feeling brain, the more we can communicate to the midbrain, the more we are able to influence people, okay? So where does motivation to act comes from? Okay, there are two kinds of motivation. For example, the first motivation comes from the reptilian brain. For example, when you see fire in front of you, you run, you are afraid. It is a fight or flight response. When you see an animal charging at you, you run, okay, you take flight. This kind of motivation to act immediately comes from the survival brain or the reptilian brain. And more interestingly, the next kind of motivation to take action actually comes from the limbic system. It is our emotions that drive motivation and never the neocortex brain, okay? So you think about it, in Toastmasters, we have always been trying to persuade people to take up leadership roles. We try to let people join the club. We try to talk and talk and talk our way, and nobody responded. Why is that so? Because we have always been speaking to the neocortex system. We have not spoken yet to the limbic system, okay? So the neocortex helps to direct our awareness to shift our mindset and subconscious, but we need to ultimately infiltrate the limbic system. So how do we do that? There are many, many ways to do it, many strategies to talk to the limbic system, but one of the most important ways is to really understand your members and your teammates in Toastmasters. Find out what are the core motivations, and every one of us here have a core motivation. For example, if you want to buy a car, some people buy a car for status. They buy an expensive car to show the status. Some people buy a car for convenience. Some people buy a car so that they belong to the same group. Some people buy a car for identity. Okay, there are so many reasons why people do the same thing. And in Toastmasters itself, some people join Toastmasters for status. Some want fame because they can speak to many people. Some want popularity. Some people want affiliation. Some people join Toastmasters to master the art of public speaking, to go deep into mastery. Some people join Toastmasters for different reasons, maybe discovery, maybe respect, or perhaps to create something of their own. You see, people have different core motivations, and the motivations direct how they act. If we can link our message to the core motivations of the person, we would have been able to better speak to the limbic system. Okay. Third one is called strategic thinking. Okay, we cannot solve our own problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Okay, strategic thinking is so important, and it can be as simple as a very one-dimensional problem. Let's take a look at this video. This video was taken when Captain America from the Marvel superhero universe was just starting out. This was what happened before he became a superhero.
You're only at the halfway point. First man to bring it to me gets a ride back with Agent Carter. Move! Move! Get out there! That's all you got. They saw him. He's in trouble. Get out there, hon. Come on, get out there. Nobody's got that flag in 17 years. The full back in the line. Come on, fall in. Let's go. Get back into formation. Rogers! I said fall in!
Okay, so you can see from this video, the guy who managed to get the flag was Captain America. Okay, and everybody used the same method. They all climb up the flagpole. This person was the only one who thought very differently, because he realized that instead of climbing to reach the flagpole, he can bring the flagpole down to the ground back to him. So this is one example of strategic thinking. And you begin to ask yourself, can we change the way things are run? And that's what leaders do. They take risks, they change the way things are run. They find out from different perspectives. They see from the other side of the coin and see whether the other side can work better. So in order to do that, okay, what we do here is to think in terms of a systems perspective. We try to think in terms of cause and effects and examine our assumptions. And the simplest way to do that is to think at least in 3 positions. Okay, first of all, your own position. Your own position is when you see the things from your own eyes, you listen through your own ears, you see things from your very first person perspective. The second position is when you see from other people's perspective, the members' perspective, your teammates' perspective, the perspective of your vice presidents and exco members and things like that. Okay, so you see from another perspective. And finally, you also step into another position, which is you observe the interaction of a club. You observe the interaction between you and the person that whose relationship you care about. And from these 3 perspectives here, your perspective, the other person's perspective, and the bystander's perspective, you are able to see all the cause and effect relationships a lot more effectively. Now, many times when we want to make a big leadership decision, we only think from our own perspective. We are that narrow. We think from our own perspective, what we think we should do and how we should do it. But if you see from the other 2 positions, then you might see a lot more things that you have never thought of before. And of course, adding on, you can add the 4th position, which is your position in the entire system, your position in the Toastmaster system, your position in your organization, or maybe if you are an entrepreneur, you question your position in the entire market or industry. And sometimes if you have the appetite for more perspectives and information, you can extend yourself and ask yourself the question, what if you are God? Okay, what if you are looking at all these relationships from the heavens? What would you think of this? So this kind of perceptual positioning is the first step to gaining far greater and far more extensive clarity, no matter which kind of risky problem you are trying to solve. Okay, so this kind of things is something you can implement right away for a major problem that you are trying to solve right now. So think about it. Do you have a personal problem? Do you have a professional problem, a Toastmasters issue, or maybe something you want to do but dare not do it? Start to implement this and see this problem from many different perspectives. Okay, so the idea here is about systems thinking, and I have something to show you actually. More importantly, the cause and effect analysis.
In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia, were suffering from an outbreak of malaria, so they called the World Health Organization for help. The World Health Organization had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amounts of DDT around the island. With the application of DDT, the mosquitoes that carried the malaria were knocked down, and so was the malaria. There were some interesting side effects, though. The first was that the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. Turns out the DDT not only killed off the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasp that had controlled a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. Thatch being what the roofs of the Dayak people's homes were made from. Without the wasps, the caterpillars multiplied and flourished and began munching their way through the villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning. The DDT affected a lot of the island's other insects, which were eaten by the resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years, so animals like geckos do not metabolize it very fast. It stays in their system for a long time. Over time, the geckos began to accumulate pretty high levels of DDT, And while they tolerated the DDT fairly well, the island's resident cats, which dined on the geckos, did not. The cats ate the geckos, and the DDT contained in the geckos killed the cats. With the cats gone, the island's population of rats came out to play. We all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. Pretty soon, the Dayak people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, only this time it wasn't malaria that was the problem. It was the plague and the destruction of their grain stores, both of which were caused by the overpopulation of rats. This time, though, the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution and had to invent one. What did they do? They decided to parachute live cats into Borneo. Operation Cat Drop occurred courtesy of the Royal Air Force and eventually stabilized the situation.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and consider becoming a patron by making...
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, looking at this video, you might have noticed that had the World Health Organization not apply the standard solution to this problem, like for example, carpet bombing the whole place with DDT, then this problem would not occur. And as a leader, we need to think about this situation because many times when we copy and paste solutions, we copy and paste the old solution from the past and apply to a new situation, a new operating environment, and we wonder why things never work out. Yeah, it's because we have failed to see the whole cause and effect relationship and how things work in an entire system. So if you think about it, right, are you trying to do the same thing or replicate the same thing as your predecessors? Okay, so in Toastmasters, we have this thing called the every year there's this leadership training for all the EXCO members. So are the methods more or less the same, or should we change our methods? Should we think deeper and not apply the same strategies over and over again? And would past strategies that work in the past work in the future? We have to start thinking about all these things. Okay, so moving on to the next part. Right, the next part is about knowledge acquisition, and good leaders are very good in acquiring knowledge. If you want to be a powerful leader and a role model, you acquire knowledge fast and find a system to acquire this kind of knowledge and intelligence fast. And the same goes for organizations. For example, is your club learning fast? Are members in your team learning fast? Members in your EXCO getting new experiences and becoming better and better so that they can mentor somebody else? Or is the level of knowledge still the same as a few years ago? So the desire for knowledge, like the thirst for riches, increases ever with the acquisition of it. The more you acquire knowledge, the better you see things. Okay, and the fastest way to build knowledge is to use a very simple system. You can plant this system into your leadership paradigm and into your personal development roadmap. And all this, when you build something, you can experiment. Okay, you build something new, like for example, you build a new marketing plan, you have a new speechcraft workshop, you create something, a program, you experiment, see whether it works, you measure it, and you do something called validated learning. Validated learning is when you do an action for the real purpose of understanding and learning from it. So in validated learning, we want to test out our hypotheses. We want to test out certain assumptions to see whether these assumptions are true. For example, we can create a product, or maybe a simple speechcraft workshop or program which we think can work. And we launch out this program, which is quite bare bones. It is very minimal. We call it a minimal viable product, a very minimal and simplified program. So that when we launch it, we can test whether people want it or not, whether people will join our club because of this new program. And if we see some traction and people start to like our program, then we know our hypothesis is answered and we can build a more extensive version of the program next time. So we do this cycle a lot. And the more you do this cycle, the more you learn about very complex environments that has very new operating rules. Okay, so what we do is when we learn something, right, you see, just like driving a car, when we learn how to drive a car, we utilize our 100% full attention span to drive the car. But the more we drive the car, the bandwidth start to decrease and decrease. So if you have driven your car for a few months, you realize that, hey, driving car suddenly becomes second nature. You can even talk to your friend or listen to the radio or answer a phone call. Okay, of course, not using your hand to answer the call. Okay, you can do many things and multitask while you are driving the car because the mental bandwidth starts to decline. Okay, then when the mental bandwidth starts to lower down, you start to add in new facts or new things to do at the same time. And that's how you grow your transformative resilience in the long run, by exceeding your bandwidth. Okay, so how do we do that? You see, we have to design our own learning program, our own competency roadmap. And even for organizations, we have to design a learning program for them. And the learning program involves a lot of feedback loops. You have action and you have results. And if you can have many actions and each action you evaluate the results and you create one single feedback loop, then that becomes your learning point. Okay, so feedback loops are actually very important. So what you do is you isolate something in the club. So for example, to run a club, there are so many things you need to do. So many things from learning and development, marketing, administration, budgeting. You take out the part that you find is your weakness, the part that you want to adjust. For example, recruitment and marketing. Okay, you isolate the parts, you hone that skill, find different ways to market, find different ways to learn new persuasive skills so that you can sell your club to people, or you hone in on the skills and train on the skills, and finally you integrate into your overall club framework. So we do this process a lot: skill isolation and skill integration. And if there's time later on, I can share with you more examples why skill isolation and integration is one of the best ways to learn skills in the modern world. Okay, and you need to start to look into this area as well. All right, so skill isolation will actually allow you to isolate the parts that you want to work on, and you train and focus on the parts before integrating into your overall system. All right, so you save a lot of time as a leader. You focus only on the part that makes the greatest difference, the leverage points. And finally, the final thing that I'm going to talk about is you. Okay, so after we talk about all the different factors here, I want to come back to you, because the purpose of life, according to David Viscott, is to discover your gift. The work of life is to develop your gift, and the meaning of life is to give your gift away. And I believe that's the reason why we are in Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, we discover our gift of leadership, our gift of speaking. And we develop our leadership skills and speaking skills, and then later we give it away so that we can inspire other people to do the same. So moving back to us, okay? Eventually, as you become a greater and greater leader and a more accomplished leader, you realize that outward achievement will no longer matter that much. So I have achieved some of the international awards in teaching, in coaching, and I've gotten like a lot of money from my clients. My clients pay me a lot to solve problems that other people cannot solve. And all these achievements used to be very exciting to me. But of course, right now, I'm grateful for them, even though I don't feel that excited anymore, because eventually we will go from outward achievement to inner fulfillment. And that is the final part of the leadership paradigm. In the end of the day, whatever you achieve, in the end, we still go in. We still go inwards. In order to discover what you really like, the best way is the Japanese Ikigai approach. I still find this very comprehensive. And at least this framework here serves as a very basic point for discussion. You can ask yourself what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Okay, so if you can find the thing in the middle, the star in the middle, then you will have a lot of clarity, purpose, and resilience. And this kind of clarity and purpose comes from your insight. It is not about attending Anthony Robbins' workshop or any other wonderful pump up workshop that pumps you up, and then later you realize that motivation dies down. This kind is very purpose driven. You design a purpose driven system in your life. Okay, and I encourage you to really think about this process and ask yourself this. And similarly, you ask yourself, why does your club exist? Why is it among so many clubs? Why must your club exist? What does your club serve to do? Is there a need that your club can meet more than any other clubs? Is there a club, is there something that your club does better than any other clubs? Okay, what is it that your club really loves to do? And can your club really benefit from your current capabilities? Okay, you ask yourself these kind of questions and find the sweet spot in the middle. And of course, this requires a lot of dialogues and conversations. Okay, so you ask yourself deep questions, and I'm going to speak about it from a personal perspective first. You ask yourself, what activities have contributed most to your success in life? Okay, and you can ask the same question in a club setting in your next exco meeting. Okay, what activities have contributed most to our club's success? What is it? Next one, how did you get from where you were to where you are today? And you can change this question and ask your club members or ask your club exco the same exact question to track your club's timeline. Next part, what talents and abilities seem to come easily to you? Okay, or what talents and abilities seems to come easily to your club? Your club could have a certain competitive advantage. What tasks do you do well that seem to be difficult to most other people? Other people take 10 hours to learn a skill, you only take 5 hours. That could be what you are naturally born to do. What activities make you most excited? You can't wait to do it. You can't wait to speak about it. What sort of work do you most enjoy doing? And the same goes for your club. Okay, what sort of work does your club enjoy doing? Okay, what activities do you find most intrinsically motivating? And how about your members? How about your club? Is there a pattern? If you could do any job or career and be successful at it, what would you choose? Okay. And finally, if you have all the money in the world, money is no concern. You don't have to answer to your boss because of money. What would you still choose to do? Would you still be in Toastmasters? And I leave these questions for you to discover your inner genius, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, leadership is an intrapersonal skill. It is the way we communicate to ourselves. It is also an exercise of self-discovery. Most of the time in Toastmasters, we talk about leadership as an interpersonal skill. Me interacting with people, me interacting with my exco, my members. But now, train yourself to see leadership as an intrapersonal skill and go deeply, because through this whole journey, as you exert yourself in leadership capacities in Toastmasters or in anywhere else, you are going to find out more about yourself. And if you see leadership as an intrapersonal skill, perhaps your leadership development trajectory will have been very different. So with that, I leave you to ponder on all these questions, and I hope you have enjoyed and learned something beneficial from my workshop. Back to you.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Tan Kuan Hong. Transform your life and organization by taking that paradigm shift in what being risky means to you. Remember, when all else fails, enjoy, engage, enable, evolve, and explore. So let's all be encouraged to learn, build, and measure, and continue that process with us and our fellow Toastmasters. We have come to the next segment of today's program, and that is the Q&A segment. This segment will be moderated by Division G's Director, Margaret Low. So I will hand over the time to her. Margaret Low, we have about 15 to 20 minutes for this. Over to you.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster James. Can we highlight the two speakers, please? I would like to invite the two speakers back on stage. We will now take questions for our panel speakers. I would like to extend our thanks from Division Chi to distinguished Toastmaster Eric Tan and distinguished Toastmaster Tan Kuan Hong for taking the time to speak at our event this afternoon, and very insightful inputs that you've given us. From Eric, he shared about what it takes to step out and to have courage to be a leader. We face our own fears first because we are only human. And then from Kuan Hong, we learn in a very systematic and academically put together session how the brain works, how to relate to the different parts of the brain, trigger it, and to motivate it into actions. Indeed, all of us here, seated here, are here to learn, but how much of that is harnessed and how much of that knowledge will be put to use? Let's hear from our audience this afternoon. Is there some burning question that you have? that you would
Hello,
like to
hi.
put up to our two experts here?
Yeah.
Feel
Hi,
free to
Margaret.
unmute yourself. Please identify yourself first, your name, and then your club before you direct the questions to our two speakers.
Hello, Margaret. Hi. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, who is that? Is that Fan?
Yeah, it's me.
Is that Fan?
I'm-
Yes, we
yeah,
can hear
I'm-
you. Please proceed.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Margaret. And yeah, I'm Fan. I'm the A1AD, and I'm coming from the Marine Parade Toastmaster Club. And first of all, thanks so much for this wonderful, informative and insightful session provided by the Division GNS. And we really appreciate two excellent Toastmasters sharing their insights with us. And right here, I have the question for Eric. Hi, Eric.
Please proceed.
Hi,
Yeah.
Fan.
So
Yes.
yeah, I think just now you explained to us why courage is essential to lead. And one of the points you mentioned is to build creative work culture. So that one, I think something unique and special out of the out of all the comments. So I want to, how about you, could you just share your insights in terms of creating creative work culture as a leader through your experience? Thank you.
Thank you, Fan, for that question. Well, be it in your corporate setting or be it in Toastmasters, there will always be this legacy that's been passed down from generation to generation. And there will be people, let's put it in a very relatable sense, let's look at club per se, okay? So in a club, you have your seniors, you have your veterans, you have your charter members, for example, that, you know, from generation to generation, there's a model of doing certain things, okay? And sometimes you have to live up to that expectation. But when we talk about being creative, we have to keep up with the times sometimes, and we have to allow our new members to inject some of the innovative things that probably have never explored before, okay? To give them that courage, if you will, to really explore and say, you know what, go and try. And let's see what comes out. And probably this could add on to our existing legacy. This could be something. I give you an example. For example, in the past, what we do in AIA Toastmasters Club is our installation is our biggest event. So what we don't really have a person who do montage, okay? So along the way, one of the president who initiated that, she said that, you know what, why not we start to do montage and play a video? It will be good. And so everybody was looking at each other and say, so who's going to do that? You know, and then she assigned somebody and somebody volunteered. They did that. It was brilliant. And then we carry on that legacy to this day. So this is what we meant by being creative. You know, you need to instill some confidence into your members to ensure that the environment can be creative. If not, what they will do is they will just follow the patterns that has been set aside by your predecessors. Hence, as a leader, you need to have the courage to want to experiment, and then you also need to provide the assurance to your members to say, it's okay, go ahead and try, and let's see what happens. Yeah, so this is what I meant by, if you are courageous enough to experiment, you will find that you can allow your members an opportunity to be creative. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think that's really encouraging and motivating the members to do something different. And also just to add on your sharing, because in your speech you mentioned you had the experience of striving for excellence instead of perfection, where you do your club business. I think that was really a good example as well. All right,
Yeah,
thank you so much for your sharing. Okay, thanks, Margaret.
Thank you for your question, Fan. Do we have another question from the floor? Okay, I have one for Kwan Hong. It was very academic that you presented to us all the various steps of being a risky leader. Now, what caught my attention was the systems perspective. We know it's valuable to have different perspectives because it gives us an overview of the entire situation, and possibly we'll be able to find solutions to tackle a certain issue. But my question is, now, how can you be in 3 or 4 different perspectives when you're only taking in information through your own eyes and your own ears? How do you broaden that perspective? Over to you, Kuan Hong.
Yes. Okay. So very good question. Thank you very much, Division Director Margaret. So there are many ways to do these things, okay? And the perceptual position was discussed extensively in the NLP literature. In the neuro-linguistic programming, one of the core tools to use is actually perceptual position. And we use this tool to discover new possible perspectives that we have never thought of before. So for example, talking about a very simple relationship problem, okay? For example, a relationship problem between person and maybe the spouse. And we look at the same person. Why is she always angry? Okay, why is she always angry? Then we couldn't get the answers, all right? So we try to understand the person. Imagine we are that person. We use sub-modalities. We use things like deep structure. I try to understand people's deep structure modeling. And then we understand, we see, oh, maybe this person, we visualize this person's life. Maybe she was very busy. In the morning, she wake up so early today. She rushed to work and then she came back and somebody called her. So if we are able to visualize her lifestyle or at least trace the timeline of events that happened to this person, then we might come across new perspective we have not considered before. And through that, we develop things like empathy. We show empathy. And then we look at our discussion. Okay, now we take a step back and then we just picture a discussion. We replay the discussion in our mind, this person versus that person. Okay, this person versus our spouse. And then we see, hey, why that argument? Okay, we replay the discussion and we see ourselves from a detached point of view. That means I'm not siding with my position. I could be wrong. So that it doesn't matter. I will be non-judgmental. I don't even cite myself and I look at the interaction. So that is what we call the third person position, So you see that this kind of very simple perceptual position is the way we grow our thinking and grow our awareness to the next level, because most of the time we are only limited to the first perception. So I always ask myself, how can I see things from different point of view? Let's say I want to sell my Toastmasters Club and I encourage my friend. My friend obviously told me that he wanted to be a good speaker and he likes my speaking style. He wanted to emulate me. So since he's already so interested, a warm target, shouldn't he sign up? But when I presented the offer to him, he did not want to do it. Now I begin to question myself, why is that so? I thought he's interested. What is stopping him? So I position myself, I think from his perspective, and I realized, oh, what are the kind of information did he get? Did he speak to somebody before speaking to me? Did he see other clubs before coming here? Did he read up by himself about what Toastmasters is all about? So I tried to find out why. And only from his perspective, only then can I see things that I would otherwise not have seen if I stood in my position. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Kuan Hong. So in short, in order to have different perspectives, first and foremost, you need to ask questions. You gather new information and then to be able to put yourself in those other perspectives in order to be able to view things from a different angle.
Correct.
And hopefully through that, you should be able to find a solution from there.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Kuan Hong. Okay, there is a request from the audience asking for your link for the cause and effect. I will leave it to you if you are available to put that in the chat later on. I think it will benefit the audience here.
Okay.
Great. Let's see. Do we have another question for our panelists?
Margaret, Karthik here. Yes, I do have a question.
Karthik, yes. Can you please?
Yes. So I'm
share
from
with us
Ungol
which club?
Park Toastmasters Club. I serve as the club president for this term. My question is, what's the role of intuition when it comes to leadership? So either of the judges can answer. The reason why I'm asking this question is, traditionally we make all fact-based decisions, right? When it comes to achieving our vision, and COVID flip-flopped everything. And there is this new dimension of intuition being explored when it comes to dealing with uncertainty. So what are your thoughts?
You're referring to intuition of the leader,
Yes.
Katif,
What is
in
the role
reference to
intuition plays when it comes to leadership? Yes.
how intuition, your own intuition plays
Yes.
when it comes
Yes.
to leadership, when it comes to exercising decision making in leadership?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and this is open to the two panelists.
Okay. So I can take the questions. Now, one of the amazing things that we use all the time is our intuition. Okay, and intuition. Okay, so I try to simplify everything. Okay, to speak in layman's terms so that you can understand what we see intuition as and how we harness it. So intuition is a way of deciding or making decisions without logically tracing all the steps. So instead of using our cognitive brain to logically trace the steps, we rely on patterns and we process the patterns in our subconscious mind. Like, for example, we have seen certain patterns before, we have seen certain things before. For example, when you see your boss, if your boss frowns in the morning, if your boss makes certain behavior and you know you have seen it before, then that becomes your intuition. It becomes part of your experience and you don't really process it because you have seen it before and you make a decision. Oh, this person is angry. I should stay away. I should be careful with my words. I should not touch on this topic. So he will get triggered or things like that. So an intuition is how we subconsciously process information. And all this process of information happens because we have seen it before or we have recognized certain patterns before in our past. So that is how we use intuition. And intuition is used most of the time for very impulsive buyer behavior. For example, if you buy things like Coca-Cola, we don't think about it, right? We don't really think Coke Zero, Coke, normal Coke, or we buy sweet, we just take and go and buy. So we just buy it intuitively. But when it comes to complex decision and we apply intuition, sometimes it could go wrong. The chances of intuition working well for us, right, in any leadership scenario is when we have a very good pool of experience to fall back on. And the experience has very similar pattern to the current problem you are trying to solve. But if you have very different experience and the current problem relies on a new pattern of thinking, very different basis point, very different starting point, very different objectives and goals, and it is a complex and open problem, then intuition will fail miserably. Yeah. So I also did many intuitive investments before. Again, new economic regime, new market regime, and I can tell you I lost millions and millions of dollars in the stock market, and I have also gained millions of dollars because I do not rely on intuition. Okay, so you must see when to use intuition. When to use it. You use it only for circumstances that has a backtrack that you already have experience in, and you know the patterns are quite similar. Then intuition will work a lot better.
Well, if I may add, Karthik, that's a very good question. Right? For me, your question, the important lies in intuition applies in terms of leadership. And when it comes to that, I would say from my experience, that intuition will work in your favor, especially when you are connecting with your members. That means from your experience, from your life experience, that's like what Dr. Tan mentioned earlier. You know, he mentioned something along when you see your boss frown, you will try to step away. But as a leader, especially as a club leader such as yourself, when you see your members frowning, you know, you instead of walking away, you walk towards. You know, you walk towards them, you find out what happened, you engage them, and you talk it out. You know, you want to let them know that you are there for them. And this you have to trust your intuition. You know, there's no right or wrong, simply put, when it comes to that. It comes to handling certain things, just like what Fan just now triggered that question when it comes to being creative. Sometimes you have to rely on intuition to say, let's just try, you know. And again, when I mentioned about this down, together with your members, if you will, what are the worst possible scenarios that could happen? And what's the best possible scenarios that could happen? And then you assess together with your members. You give them that accountability to work with them. And that relies on a bit of intuition, if you ask me, because a lot of times for us in life, it's tough to rely on knowledge. Always rely on the knowledge to execute and then to, get things going. Because we really don't know what's going to happen next. Hence, this is where we need to trust ourselves and trust our members, fall back on your intuition and just proceed. And only then you will gain the experience. And then in future, this will no longer be an intuition. This will be experience. Because you assess the situation, you have done it before. And you will be able to carry out smoothly. That is experience already. It's no longer intuition, if you ask me. So intuition and leadership, if you ask me, the simple word is trust it, trust yourself, and trust your team members. And I think that will work. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, it did. Thanks.
Thank you.
For the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric and Kwan Hong. Now we have time for one more question. I see Punit,
Yes.
you've raised your hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Punit. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Hi, everybody, and hello to the speakers. I'm Puneet from the Changi Sime Toastmasters Club. I had a question regarding the quote, Eric, that you shared in your speech. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. And that led me to reflect on the fact that a lot of times leadership really gets driven, and the courage to lead comes from an inherent sense of purpose, right? Because there is something else which is more than that, important than that fear. However, as I think through within a corporate setup, right, where you might be already leading a team or, I'm just wondering how to find that purpose, right, to lead could be a bit more difficult than in a setup where you're trying to do something which is socially more meaningful. So in that context, any thoughts or suggestions, Eric?
Thank you, Puneet, for that question. I'm really not a very knowledgeable person academically. So a lot of times what I've learned is through books and through reading and through talking to people. And one of my idols, honestly speaking, will be Simon Sinek. And I believe you heard about the golden circle, right? It always starts with the why.
Right.
Then, it starts with why. And once you know the motivation and the purpose, you expand it. You will know the how and what will be the result that you are potentially going to receive from this action. Correct? So likewise, I believe in that. I believe in finding the why to understand. Yes, in the corporate setting, it's very challenging sometimes, whereby we are put in a situation where we can't relieve ourselves from, because this is our job, we have to execute it. So for me, is every time I face that in my profession, I will just tell myself, number one, you choose this job. You choose this job, you choose this career, you choose to get paid by this company. So it's your responsibility. Okay, now this is my responsibility. I cannot relieve myself from this situation. Let's just dive into it. Then we go into what's the scenario that we are looking at? Okay, what's the scenario? How can I complement in this scenario? How can I get my team to complement in this scenario, to elevate? And knowing is not enough. We can't just know. As a leader, we need to know, of course, but it's not enough. We have to share it with our team members. Why? You know, why are we doing this? Again, we have to reiterate the fact, remember, why are we here in the first place? This is very important. Be in professional setting or club setting, why are you here? You are here because you want to make a career out of it. You enjoy this career. You find a passion. Okay, so now we have this challenge. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, we see it as a challenge. How can we collectively overcome this challenge? And that's why we need everybody's expertise. No man is an island. I don't have all the answers. And as a leader, I don't need to have all the answers. But I know I can place my faith and my trust on my members. That's why the quote says it the best. You know, courage is not the absence of fear. I know that there are consequences to failing this project or to fail in this situation on a corporate setting. But the fact of the matter is, if I am honest enough to share it with my members, and I did it in my professional setting, in my profession as well. Sometimes there are certain things I really cannot do. I'm very honest with my client and say, I really cannot do. You know, I don't pretend to say I can do because it will affect my reputation. But many a times, if I know that I have a team to support me, I know I can rely on this person, that person to help me, then that will give me the confidence to say, hey, you know what? Together, let's try. Let's tackle this. And when we tackle this, it's not in corporate setting, there's no such thing as try, I know. But we have to give each other courage. And this is where courage is a two-way track. I'm giving you courage to say that we can do it. You need to give me courage and know that we can do it. And that is where we will be able to move on. Because we know there will be obstacles. We know there probably will be failure. But if we give it our best, we can do it. You know, we can achieve. And when you have that, trust me, by and large, you will find that it will be smooth. The most importantly is communicate honestly with your members. Leadership is not about ourselves, it's about the members. You know, we are just put in a position to lead, that's all. You see, once you are able to recognize that, you can try applying. And if you see the result, please let me know. But I am pretty confident that when you can apply that, by and large, whatever situation that you are put in, you will be able to overcome them successfully. And that is my belief. And I hope that will help you in your profession. All right, Puneet, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Eric. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Puneet. Thanks to our audience for their invigorating questions. I believe our panel speakers have many nuggets of gold, many nuggets of knowledge that they are able to share with us. If you will stay back after the session, you can field your questions with our panelists. Now, this afternoon, we have heard from our two experts, our leaders here, to take courage in stepping forward to lead. That aside, we are still human. We face our own fears, we face our own uncertainties, but it is having that courage to step up, to be honest, to also empower our members to come up with a more creative environment, to a more productive and positive environment for us to grow, for us to experiment, and for us to ask questions to find out where, if our own perspective may be myopic, but we can tap on the eyes and the ears of our members. We can ask questions. We can find out what their core motivations are. And through that, we'll be able to motivate our members to grow and to step out and to become a better version of themselves. The audience wanted to know more about how to create a better environment, how to step out of their personal single perspective, and to be able to be a more empowering and a more adaptive leader. Thank you once again for our questions and for our panelists. I will now hand the time back to the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, speakers and Madam
proceed.
Moderator. Thank you so much. We are truly blessed to learn and enhance our experiences with the sharing today. Now, just for you to know, in the third segment of the series of Executive Leadership Incubator sessions, we'll be inviting distinguished Toastmasters Gerald Yong and Robert Ng to share on the differences between a manager and a leader, as well as the attributes and disciplines of leadership on the 27th of November from 2 to 4 p.m. Now, before I invite again our division director to give her closing, allow me please to invite our district director who has been listening and she would like to share a few words. Distinguished Toastmaster Kathy Toh, over to you.
All right, thank you, James, and a very good afternoon once again to our members here at Division G, Division G Director Margaret Low, as well as two speakers and guests who are here at this event. We are here to learn what makes a leader. You may not believe it, but there is always this leadership quality in each and every one of us. We just never know it. We just never take that step forward to realize that potential. We join Toastmasters for a different reason, but there is always this opportunity for us to shine. Are you ready to take it up? Or are you ready to take up the challenge? We are never ready. We will never be ready. Leaders are never born. We are made. And it is through this accumulation experience that we made ourselves what we are here today. A lot of people told me that they have seen some transformation in me from the time where I took up leadership role, from division director to club director to now district leader, district director. But I don't feel that change, because all this is unknowingly happening to me, but it is visible to all those around us. Likewise, once you are ready, or once you have that intention or desire or motivation to take up leadership role, people around you will see the change. They will be inspired by you to also take up leadership roles, to be the next leader. And this is what this Leadership Incubator program is all about, because we want to inspire, we want to groom, we want to develop the next generation of leaders. It has to start somewhere. Attending this workshop is just step number one. The next step is all back to you. Are you ready to take it up? So I do hope that after listening to this workshop, we will not just stop. We will take action, take charge, and take the lead. Because we are the leaders of Toastmasters International. We are the leaders of our life. And what we want to see, we will have to take charge and make that change. So I do hope to see among us participants here, the next leaders of District 80. Back to you, James.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Very well said. Before I invite our division director to make her closing address, let me share with you what leadership means to me. See, being a leader is not a challenge, it's a privilege. My personal learning in Toastmasters was that if you really wish to improve upon your leadership skills, is to really stand up and step out. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. As Eric mentioned, in Toastmasters, we have a very friendly environment. We learn from our mistakes and we grow without serious repercussions, because we know we are here to learn. So work with your district, work with your division, and you yourself will see how it grows exponentially, that leadership giant within us. With that, thank you very much. I am DTM James Clifton, and I will hand over to Division Director Margaret Low for a closing address. Margaret, over to you.
Thank you once again, distinguished Toastmasters James Clifton. Fellow leaders, being a leader takes courage. Master that courage to take risks. Calculated risks reaps rewards that may even astonish you. We have learned much today. Let not your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action. In closing, I would like to thank the charismatic Toastmaster of the Day, James Clifton, past Division Director Patricia Lam for gracing this event, and District Director Kathy Tho for her closing remarks, and our Zoom Master, the man behind the scene, without which this event would not have been successful, Toastmaster Chiang Piak Kim, for making this event a success. See you all at the next session. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Thank you, Kwan
Thank
Hong.
You.
you.
Bye-bye.
Now, for those of you who do have
Very, very
questions,
informative.
you may direct them to Margaret, and she will make sure that the questions are directed back to our speakers for today, and we will respond to you soon. Yeah, so do not be afraid to ask questions, my friends. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you for the fabulous workshop.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Hey, hi, Sabrina. Hi, Sabrina.